are subverted. Religious institutions are subverted. Every institution in Nigeria is subverted because of corruption and bad governance. I believe that if a leader emerges that is fighting for the nation, not for his base, not for his pocket and belly, not for his family, not for his state, is fighting for the nation, Nigerian youths can be mobilized, because things are so rough in Nigeria now. Thank you, Victor. There's an issue that is basic in Nigeria that's not being addressed. Corruption is rampant in Nigeria. Prebendalism, if you may. And what is prebendalism? It's where the origin of it is where the bishop of a place, of a bishopric, believes that he has right, an unfettered right to the finances and resources of his bishopric. That is the way the Nigerian public servant has grown over the decades to see his office. So when you ask about INEC, the past, the present, it's actually the same thing, because in recent history, during this political dispensation, every INEC office is alleged to have compromised his position, not just in terms of financial misdeeds, but in terms of not delivering to the people what the people expect him to do. What does that mean? You see, in a year, for instance, a year to the runoff to any elections, you hear the government budgeting hundreds of billions of naira for the conduct of elections. And the truth of the matter is that those hundreds of billions, most of it is allegedly pilfered. But even what is left, the election itself is compromised, from the problem associated with security during elections, vote buying, all kinds of things, to glitches, where INEC tells you there's a glitch. And because of that glitch, they explain away the services they're supposed to render. So Nigerians putting in professors, to be heads of INEC, doesn't mean anything. Have they acquitted themselves well in that position? All of them, from before Iwu to the present one that is being appointed. And this one that is being appointed, I don't know much about him, but from something I saw on one of the youth journalists' Twitter handle, there are questions allegedly about his professorial chair and some of his the positions, how he got to where he is. So, Vic, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that it's the system. The system is wrong. If there's no paradigm shift, you can appoint any person to anything in Nigeria, he will be compromised. Because if he's not compromised, I can tell you, they will not let him get to that position. The fight for Nigeria is a fight by every well-meaning and good-intentioned Nigeria. Youth, adults, elderly people, children, any person. And what is the fight all about? The fight is about corruption and enthronement of good governance. Like I said, it's rampant. It's all over the place. It's pervasive. Where do you start? Most times people see corruption as a distant thing, as an abstract phenomenon. You hear stories. Let me give you an example. When my late father, many years ago, was alive, he said to me, I may not mention names, during a military administration, an ex-banker acquaintance of his, who became finance minister, called him one day when he went to see him in Lagos. The man was still a minister, and said to him, someone just made $18 million in a very clean operation. And he said, how? He said, well, crude oil. The price for crude oil, a barrel of crude oil then, was $18. And this vessel was cleared to pick up 1 million barrels of crude with all the documentations intact. And the vessel came in, picked 1 million barrels of crude with the papers allotted to it, but those papers were not signed. And then they went to international waters and transshipped to a waiting vessel. Then the vessel came back and picked another 1 million barrels of crude oil, and then those papers were signed, and it sailed. So someone just made $80 million without any evidence to show for it. During this political dispensation, not this administration, this democratic dispensation, at this time, I don't want to call names, someone said to me, at a time when you heard that the refineries were not working, but a lot of money had been spent on the refineries, and they were telling you that, yes, they were producing not at optimum, but at a certain level, that they were actually producing a lot more. They were producing diesel. There was scarcity of diesel in Nigeria. And what was happening was that some people would come to a place in Woji Road, GRA, Port Harcourt, early on particular mornings from Abuja with some papers, and the programming officer would be there for PPRC or whatever, and other people would be there, and they would be given instruction. They will come with allocation papers. So the programming officer's work is to just go back and program those vessels. And the person was saying that it's an allegation that vessel will be programmed for export of AGO. There was scarcity of AGO in Nigeria. They were managing it, sharing it, telling you the refineries were not working. And the vessel will be programmed, loaded, and to go to the international waters, transship, and sail away. Then the vessel it transshipped to will sail into Nigerian waters as having imported AGO into the country, because they were selling AGO in Nigeria at below international, far below international market price. You know, those allegations make corruption far-fetched and abstract. I'm sure most of them are true, but the allegations, when NAITI, Nigerian Extractive Industries, the Transparency Initiative, tells you that every year, including I think last year, the last NAITI report I saw, that Nigeria was supposed to generate maybe 20-something billion dollars from crude oil and other things, that 10 million out of that is unaccounted for. Go and see NAITI reports. So this is more than an allegation this time. That is corruption, massive corruption. No one talks about it. Nigerians see it every day. Newspapers, you journalists, you publish it. No one follows it up. But that is massive corruption. Go back. Accountant General after Accountant General, down Kwaba or Kwabo or something, have said something that the problem with corruption in Nigeria is not at the level of contract awards and things like that. That the real corruption, the troubling corruption in Nigeria is from the revenue generation centers. MPA, IRS, FIRS, you know, NNPC, and all the rest of them. Lack of accountability. Lack of accountability. So leakages in the system where revenues are collected. Major leakages. These are Accountant General after Accountant General. To the Senate. Nothing is done about it. I did something about it.
Under this Tinubu administration, are they fighting corruption?
I would say that this government is not sufficiently fighting corruption in any way more than the previous administrations. So how is the Tinubu administration fighting corruption? That's what corruption does to the system, to the people of the thing. They subvert everything. Families are subverted. Religious institutions are subverted. Every institution in Nigeria is subverted because of corruption and bad governance.
So, in the light of all of this, who can stop Tinubu in 2027?
That's where the fight for Nigeria comes in. Unless there is a paradigm shift, because the entire system is corrupted. For effective change in the way things are done in Nigeria, the fight is against corruption and bad governance. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you don't fight corruption effectively, not mouth, if you don't fight corruption effectively, if you don't fight bad governance effectively, you're not going anywhere. Of course, he will come back. Look at what is happening across Nigeria already. Governors that even not from his party are endorsing him because of the fear of EFCC. Because the allegation again is that EFCC is used against some people, that other people in the system are not used. We've heard of people in this country who are being investigated by EFCC. Suddenly, when they change and go to the ruling party, not just necessarily this administration alone, when they change and go to the ruling party, EFCC, you don't hear anything about the corruption anymore. So, I am worried that Nigerians, especially the youths, are not fighting for Nigeria. And that's why I say the fight for Nigeria. The youths, as you well know, are 60-something% of this economy, which is the segment of the population that you can put to productive use. And Nigerian youths are brilliant, very resourceful people. But the problem of corruption is there. So, if the problem is not being solved effectively, if it's just a cosmetic thing, as has been going on for many years, Vic, how can there be a paradigm shift? There cannot be a paradigm shift. And it is Nigerians who have to arise. NATI report is there for every person to talk about. When Sanusi in CBN said 20 billion was missing, people gave it a little whatever. He was sacked. Was such a man talking nonsense? Is NATI nonsense? Is Accountant General after Accountant General, are they talking nonsense? The best international Price Waterhouse, the best accounting firms in the world saying this is how things are done in Nigeria. Are they talking nonsense? If the youths of Nigeria don't arise to say, we have to look at this, if they don't interrogate the system and say, what is happening? There won't be any change in Nigeria. That's the bottom line. There cannot be change in Nigeria without a fight. And I'm not talking about revolution. I'm not calling for people to go out and carry guns and everything. No. But people must arise. People must sit up and protest and face the consequences and say to the government of the day, for instance, if you have collected X million of money from World Bank, from African Development Bank for Agriculture, for whatever, publish the figures, tell us what you did out from them. Yeah, that's accountability, transparency.
If you are asked to support someone you think can go head to head and stop Tinubu 2027, who will that person be?
But I'm telling you that a new political base has to be built. Donald Trump faced a lot of obstacles in America in the last elections. He won. Different leaders in the world, even negative people like Adolf Hitler, if you know the history of the Nazi Party and Adolf Hitler, they came from nowhere and they swept Germany, a negative kind of sweeping. I believe Nigeria, I believe actually that 2027 holds a surprise for Nigerians. But Nigerians are not ready to fight, which is where the rallying cry, as in my documents, everything I've written, said, the man dies in all. Remember Wole Soyinka? Those were not Wole Soyinka's words. Those are the words of, I think, a Spanish poet, which he now adopted as a title to his prison notes. It says, the man dies in all who in the face of tyranny keep quiet. And there's political tyranny in Nigeria, economic tyranny and all forms of tyranny, corruption and bad governance. Nigerians have to rise. Nigerians have to rise and face the system, confront these guys.
What of Nnamdi Kanu? There has been the push for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. What's your take on Nnamdi Kanu's incarceration and the move to get Nnamdi Kanu released?
Nnamdi Kanu should be released. I don't agree with the method of his fight. The man was angered because is there even marginalization and all that? I think there is evidence of that. I'm not, but is the solution such as Nnamdi Kanu was preferring? I say no. So he was telling the truth, but he was approaching the wrong. He was approaching it with the wrong solution. And if for instance, the Boko Haram people who have killed hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of people in Nigeria are being pardoned and even integrated into the military as is being alleged, why shouldn't Nnamdi Kanu be released? Why? Nnamdi Kanu should be released. Remember, my late father actually went to Buhari to ask for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. You know? So I would ask the Tinubu administration to release Nnamdi Kanu. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Not because I agree 100% with what Nnamdi Kanu was saying and doing, whatever they were, but Nnamdi Kanu deserves to be released.